Hey everyone, welcome back, the Motivational Professor. Well, if you're looking at my screen and you watched the video on Thursday, we sat nicely on profits on crude oil. But guess what? That was then, and here we are on the weekend, and everyone is waiting for this. Everyone is preparing for the OPEC major news that's happening tomorrow in Vienna. Are there going to be cuts? Are there not going to be cuts? You know what my answer is? I really don't give because I'm going to trade what I see on the charts and not what impacts the news. But again, this will have a drastic impact because we'll probably see a major gap in the market tomorrow when crude oil officially opens at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that said, let's jump into the chart. In this video, I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios, but more importantly, I'm going to point out the key zones for you to watch out for when it comes to technical analysis, right? The news will be fundamentals. I'm going to deal with technical analysis because we've been absolutely crushing crude oil because we are not greedy. We have good risk management, and we are just going to trade from zone to zone, regardless of what that zone is. Remember that news is just a reason to move the market in the direction that the big players want it to move. So without further ado, let's eliminate and clear out this chart right here. And let's kind of start here, and we can take a look that this candle, because I want my videos to also be training sessions as well, right? We had this close right in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab this little box right here because I want to kind of focus in right here. You've heard me talk about the 50-day moving average over and over and over, and it's why I love it. And it's the only indicator that I put on my chart so I can find entries and exits as well. So again, I want to kind of hone in on that. And then if we drop all the way down to the 5 minutes, you are going to see what happened there. Now, on the 1 hour chart, this would have been a later entry on the 5 minute chart, right? Because if we look at the 5 minute chart, we had our actual break and retest right in here. We closed above, we came back to the 50. By the way, if you're hearing in the background, we've got some major storms happening right now here in the Miami area. So that's where you could have seen that dropping all the way down to the 50-day moving average on a 5 minute time frame, which is where I love to find my entries, gave you an additional, almost 50 to 70 points more had you gone in on the 5 minute versus the 1 hour. But I always do my analysis starting on the higher time frames. So let's kind of go over to our day chart and let's kind of take a look at where oil stands with regard to the day chart. And again, all of this is not going to change the zones, but of course the opening of the market is going to be impacted. So if we look at the technicals, okay, and we throw a Fibonacci level from this high here down to this low right here, we can see that price closed and actually rejected nicely that 78.6 right in there. So that would kind of tell us on the technicals that we would begin to see some type of at least short-term reversal here, okay, back down into possibly this area. Let me grab this right here, okay, because of the technicals and the Fibonacci levels. We also have that 50-day moving average sitting, up here as well. But of course, all of this is going to be out of play when we definitely are going to what I believe to be a huge gap because of any major news that comes out of the meetings tomorrow. So we have to take into account the gap. So what are we going to do now? We are going to establish our key areas that we are going to look for. So to do that, what I like to do is drop down to the 4 hour time frame, right? Make this a little bit bigger. And then we're going to go ahead and change the the candles over to our line chart. And all we're going to do now is kind of establish some areas by looking at the peaks. And you can clearly see here right? A touch here, a touch here, right? A touch here, touch here. We have multiple touches for either support or resistance. So we're going to mark that one up. We're then going to start sliding the scale up. And here we go, multiple touches as we look to our left. And then we'll mark one more to the top side. Let's just go for here now because we can always adjust these. And then we'll mark a few down at the bottom side. We've got 1 or 2 right here. And then we'll mark one more for now for the bottom side, probably somewhere right about there. So what we'd like to do now is put this here, go back to our candles, right? And you can kind of see the play in action. Again, this is the 4 hour. We're not going to trade off the 4 hour, but I like creating zones off the higher time frame. So the first thing that sticks out here as we look at the 4 hour time frame is that we closed the day on Friday with this perfectly centered doji candle, right? So again, we don't know what's going to happen with the gap, but again, that candle usually signals some type of possible, reversal. Yeah, if we grab this right here, let's grab this arrow and we take a look at this candle right here, kind of mirrors this candle right here. We know what happened over here as well. But again, it's not always 100% perfect, but the candles do kind of signal that because it happened towards the top of that candle, right? So we are going to kind of look at this from a whole bunch of different ways and of different areas so we can kind of track what we are going to do when the market opens. So I kind of want to go here and let's grab a horizontal. And I know I kind of took that off the screen. I just want to show you this with candles real quick because there's a couple of things that you should keep in mind. When you look to the left, I'm looking for traffic and I'm looking to see where the price rejection points are. And so we're going to kind of go off this play right here. Now, the key thing also that sticks out is that we did close above the 50-day moving average on the 4 hour. If we jump up to the 8 hour, we also closed above the 50-day moving average. But on the daily, as you can see here, right, we are not there yet, right? We are not there yet. So what's the play for crude oil? Well, the play is going to be, we're going to wait to see what happens with the gap, and then we're going to pay attention, okay, to these key areas that we have aligned. And again, you always have to take into account this 50-day moving average. We saw rejection there. And again, as we move here and we scroll into our 15-minute chart, and let's kind of show you that here, we can kind of see here that the bottom of the zone is lining up perfectly with how the 50-day moving average has kind of been working right now. So we have to see what's going to happen there. We can see we had a nice entry here off the 50. We had another nice entry here off the 50. We came very close here. So again, this is where you can get nice entries with lower risk, right? And that just tends to be the trend all the way around. So if we kind of zoom out here, right, and we look here, we can see that we are kind of in this, we're making this teapot, right? Now, we haven't been all the way up there, but if we come up here to this next zone, we possibly could see a downfall with the handle of that teacup being done. This actually might be the gap. We might actually gap all the way up here, depending on the meetings, and then eventually we have to come all the way back down to close the gap. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But this week of all weeks for right now is really going to be dependent on the news that comes out. Now, I want to kind of close up this video looking at the weekly charts. A lot of traders do not look at the weekly. I do look at the weekly because the weekly tells you a lot of good key information. Okay, so as we look here, I'm sorry about that. Let's delete that and let's get back here. Okay, so we can kind of see here on the weekly that for a while there, we were in this pattern right here, right? We were just kind of trading within this pattern right here until we finally kind of, major lightning, until we kind of broke out of that. And then we kind of came back up towards the 50. So again, even on the weekly time frame, we can see how that 50-day moving average really has played, a key role as well. Here it is again, right? 50-day moving average. came down, touched it, and then we took off after that. We broke below the 50-day moving average. Here, we came back up to retest it, and then we dropped again. So again, over and over, the 50-day moving average, I extremely love it, especially for crude oil. Okay, I only use it. I use it for other charts, but because I trade crude oil, 80 to 90% of the time, it's definitely a nice indicator to have. So we have seen rejection right here a couple of times. And so, everything is signaling to we are going to go higher with crude oil, right? The sellers only got down to this point, From here, we should go at least come back up to this 80 to 81 area, I believe in the next week or so. If not, we may even see it tomorrow if the gap is that big. We've seen $8 to $10 points on gaps. Okay, so hopefully you got some value on this video. If you did, drop a comment below. Let me know. That encourages me to keep putting out these videos for everyone to learn a little something and to make a little money along the way as well. And if you don't mind, hit that like button for me as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next crude oil video.